I know your mind is still running, turning over the worries of the day, planning what comes next. Let me tell you a story about a little girl who had to walk through a dark land to find her way home. Perhaps, in her journey, you will find your rest. The soldier with the green whiskers led Dorothy and her friends through the streets of the Emerald City, past the glittering buildings and the gentle hum of the people who had grown used to wonders. At last, they reached the room where the guardian of the gates lived. He unlocked their spectacles, returned them to his great box, and politely opened the gate for the travelers. The soft air of the city fell away behind them, and Dorothy looked out at the country ahead. "Which road leads to the Wicked Witch of the West?" she asked. The guardian shook his head. "There is no road. No one ever wishes to go that way." "How then are we to find her?" asked the girls. "That will be easy," he said. "For when she knows you are in the country of the Winkies, she will find you and make you all her slaves." "Perhaps not," said the Scarecrow with his gentle smile. "We mean to destroy her." The guardian looked at them with new respect. "No one has ever destroyed her before, but take care, for she is wicked and fierce. Keep to the west, where the sun sets, and you cannot fail to find her." They thanked him and turned toward the west, walking over fields of soft grass dotted here and there with daisies and buttercups. The grass bent beneath their feet like a cushion, and the warm sun rested on their shoulders. Dorothy noticed with quiet surprise that her pretty silk dress, so green in the palace, was now pure white. Even the ribbon around Toto's neck had lost its color and glowed softly in the light. The Emerald City was soon left far behind. As they walked, the ground became rougher and more uneven, with no farms and no houses, no tended fields. The earth was untilled and wild, and the path disappeared beneath their feet. In the afternoon, the sun beat hot in their faces, for there were no trees to offer shade. By the time evening came, Dorothy, Toto, and the lion were tired, and they lay down upon the grass and fell asleep, with the woodman and the Scarecrow keeping watch. Let your own breath slow now, just as Dorothy's did when she closed her eyes. Feel the softness all around you, the pillow beneath your head, the weight of the blanket. You don't need to do anything tonight. Just listen. Just rest. Now the Wicked Witch of the West had but one eye, yet that one eye was as powerful as a telescope and could see everywhere. She sat in the doorway of her castle, looking out over her dark land, and she saw Dorothy lying asleep with her friends around her. They were a long way off, but the witch was angry to find them in her country. She blew upon a silver whistle that hung around her neck. At once, from all directions, there came running a pack of great wolves. They had long legs and fierce eyes and sharp teeth. "Go to those people," said the witch, "and tear them to pieces." The leader of the wolves asked, "Are you not going to make them your slaves?" "No," she answered. "One is of tin and one of straw, one is a girl and another a lion. None of them is fit to work, You may tear them into small pieces." So the wolves dashed away at full speed, their paws pounding the earth. It was lucky that the Scarecrow and the Woodman were wide awake and heard them coming. The Tin Woodman stood tall, his axe gleaming in the twilight. "This is my fight," he said. "Get behind me, and I will meet them." The leader of the wolves sprang at him, but the Tin Woodman swung his arm and chopped the wolf's head from its body. One after another the wolves came, and one after another they fell before the sharp edge of his axe. 40 wolves there were, and 40 times the axe rose and fell, until at last they all lay dead in a heap. Then the Woodman sat down beside the Scarecrow, who said, "It was a good fight, friend." They waited until morning. When Dorothy awoke and saw the great pile of shaggy wolves, she was frightened, but the Tin Woodman told her all. She thanked him for saving them, and they sat down to breakfast. Then they started once more upon their journey. The Wicked Witch looked out from her castle and saw all her wolves lying dead and the strangers still traveling through her country. This made her angrier than before. She blew her silver whistle twice. A great flock of wild crows came flying toward her, darkening the sky. She commanded the King Crow, "Fly at once to the strangers. Peck out their eyes and tear them to pieces." The wild crows flew in one great flock toward Dorothy and her companions. When the little girl saw them coming, she was afraid. But the Scarecrow stepped forward. "This is my battle," he said. "Lie down beside me, and you will not be harmed." So they all lay upon the ground, and the Scarecrow stood up alone, stretching out his arms. The crows saw him and were frightened, as crows always are by scarecrows, and dared not come near. But the King Crow said, "It is only a stuffed man. I will peck his eyes out." The King Crow flew at the Scarecrow, who caught him by the head and twisted his neck until he died. Another crow came, and the Scarecrow twisted its neck also. 40 crows there were, and 40 times the Scarecrow twisted a neck, until all lay dead beside him. Then he called to his companions to rise, and they went on their way. When the witch saw all her crows lying in a heap, she flew into a terrible rage. She blew 3 times upon her silver whistle. Forthwith there was a great buzzing in the air, and a swarm of black bees came flying toward her. "Go to the strangers and sting them to death," she commanded. The bees turned and flew rapidly until they reached Dorothy and her friends. But the Woodman had seen them coming, and the Scarecrow had decided what to do. "Take out my straw," he said to the Woodman, "and scatter it over the little girl and the dog and the lion. The bees cannot sting them." So the Woodman gently drew out the straw, and Dorothy lay close beside the lion, holding Toto in her arms, and the straw covered them entirely. The bees came and found no one but the Woodman to sting. They flew at him and broke off all their stings against the tin without hurting him at all. As bees cannot live without their stings, that was the end of them. They lay scattered thick about the Woodman, like little heaps of fine coal. Then Dorothy and the lion rose, and the girl helped the Tin Woodman put the straw back into the Scarecrow until he was as good as ever. And they started upon their journey once more. The Wicked Witch was so angry when she saw her bees lying like heaps of coal that she stamped her foot and tore her hair and gnashed her teeth. She called a dozen of her slaves, the Winkies, and gave them sharp spears, telling them to go to the strangers and destroy them. The Winkies were not a brave people, but they had to do as they were told. They marched toward Dorothy until the lion gave a great roar and sprang toward them. The poor Winkies were so frightened that they ran back as fast as they could. When they returned to the castle, the witch beat them with a strap and sent them back to their work. Then she sat down to think. She could not understand how all her plans had failed. But she was a powerful witch as well as a wicked one, and she soon made up her mind how to act. In her cupboard was a golden cap with a circle of diamonds and rubies running around it. Whoever owned it could call 3 times upon the winged monkeys, who would obey any order they were given. Twice already, the witch had used the charm. Once to make the Winkies her slaves, and once to drive the great Oz himself out of the land of the West. Only once more could she use the golden cap, which was why she had saved it until all her other powers were exhausted. But now, with her wolves and crows and bees gone, and her slaves scared away, she saw only one way left. So the witch took the golden cap and placed it on her head. She stood upon her left foot and said slowly, Ep-P, Pep-P, Cack-Key. Then she stood upon her right foot and said, Hill-Lo, Haul-Lo, Hell-Lo. Then she stood upon both feet and cried in a loud voice, Ziz-Zai, Zuz-Zai, Zik. The sky darkened, and a low, rumbling sound filled the air. There was a rushing of many wings, a great chattering and laughing, and the sun came out to show the witch surrounded by a crowd of monkeys, each with immense and powerful wings upon his shoulders. One, much bigger than the others, was their leader. He flew close to the witch and said, You have called us for the 3rd and last time. What do you command? Go to the strangers within my land and destroy them all except the lion, said the witch. Bring that beast to me, for I have a mind to harness him like a horse and make him work. Your commands shall be obeyed, said the leader. Then, with a great deal of chattering and noise, the winged monkeys flew away to the place where Dorothy and her friends were walking. Some of the monkeys seized the Tin Woodman and carried him through the air until they were over a country thickly covered with sharp rocks. There they dropped him, and he fell a great distance, landing so battered and dented that he could neither move nor groan. Others caught the Scarecrow, and with their long fingers, pulled all the straw out of his clothes and head. They made his hat and boots and clothes into a small bundle and threw it into the top branches of a tall tree. The remaining monkeys threw pieces of stout rope around the lion, winding many coils about his body and head and legs until he could not bite or scratch or struggle. Then they lifted him up and flew away to the witch's castle, where they placed him in a small yard with a high iron fence around it. But Dorothy they did not harm at all. She stood with Toto in her arms, watching the sad fate of her comrades, thinking it would soon be her turn. The leader of the winged monkeys flew up to her, his long hairy arms stretched out and his ugly face grinning terribly. But then he saw the mark of the good witch's kiss upon her forehead, and he stopped short, motioning the others not to touch her. "We dare not harm this little girl," he said, "for she is protected by the power of good, and that is greater than the power of evil. All we can do is carry her to the castle of the wicked witch and leave her there." So carefully and gently, they lifted Dorothy in their arms and carried her swiftly through the air until they came to the castle, where they set her down upon the front doorstep. Then the leader said to the witch, "We have obeyed you as far as we are able. The Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow are destroyed, and the lion is tied up in your yard. The little girl we dare not harm, nor the dog she carries in her arms. Your power over our band is now ended, and you will never see us again." And with much chattering and noise, the winged monkeys flew into the air and were soon out of sight. The wicked witch was both surprised and worried when she saw the mark on Dorothy's forehead, for she knew she dared not hurt the girl. She looked down at Dorothy's feet, and seeing the silver shoes, began to tremble with fear, for she knew the power of their charm. At first, she was tempted to run away. But then she looked into the child's eyes and saw how simple the soul behind them was, that Dorothy did not know the wonderful power the silver shoes gave her. So the witch laughed to herself and thought, "I can still make her my slave, for she does not know how to use her power." Harshly, she said to Dorothy, "Come with me. Mind everything I tell you, or I will make an end of you, as I did of the Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow." Dorothy followed her through many beautiful rooms until they came to the kitchen, where the witch bade her clean the pots and kettles, sweep the floor, and keep the fire fed with wood. Dorothy went to work meekly, with her mind made up to work as hard as she could, for she was glad the witch had decided not to kill her. With Dorothy at work, the witch thought she would harness the cowardly lion like a horse. But when she opened the gate, the lion gave a loud roar and bounded at her so fiercely that she ran away in fear and shut the gate again. "If I cannot harness you," she said through the bars, "I can starve you. You shall have nothing to eat until you do as I wish." So after that she took no food to the imprisoned lion. Every day at noon she came to the gate and asked, "Are you ready to be harnessed like a horse?" And the lion would answer, "No. If you come in this yard, I will bite you." The reason the lion did not starve was that every night, while the witch was asleep, Dorothy carried him food from the cupboard. After he had eaten, he would lie down on his bed of straw, and Dorothy would lie beside him with her head on his soft, shaggy mane. They talked of their troubles and tried to plan some way to escape. But they could find no way out, for the castle was always guarded by the yellow Winkies, who were too afraid of the witch not to obey her. The girl had to work hard during the day, and often the witch threatened to beat her with the old umbrella she carried in her hand. But she did not dare to strike Dorothy because of the mark upon her forehead. Dorothy did not know this and was full of fear for herself and Toto. Once, the witch struck Toto with her umbrella, and the brave little dog flew at her and bit her leg. The witch did not bleed, for she was so wicked that the blood in her had dried up many years before. Dorothy's life became very sad as she began to understand that it would be harder than ever to get back to Kansas and Aunt Em. Sometimes she cried bitterly for hours, with Toto sitting at her feet, looking into her face and whining dismally to show how sorry he was. Toto did not really care whether he was in Kansas or the land of Oz, so long as Dorothy was with him. But he knew the little girl was unhappy, and that made him unhappy too. Feel the rise and fall of your own chest now, slow and easy. There is no place you need to be tonight, no task that cannot wait. Let yourself sink deeper, just as this story carries you deeper into rest. Now the wicked witch had a great longing to possess the silver shoes the girl wore. Her bees and crows and wolves were gone, and the golden cap was spent. But if she could get the silver shoes, they would give her more power than all she had lost. She watched Dorothy closely, hoping to see her take off the shoes, but Dorothy kept them on, except at night and when she bathed. The witch was too afraid of the dark to enter Dorothy's room at night, and her dread of water was greater than her fear of the dark. So she never came near when Dorothy was bathing. But the wicked creature was cunning, and finally she thought of a trick. She placed a bar of iron in the middle of the kitchen floor and made it invisible with her magic. Dorothy walked across the kitchen and stumbled over the bar, falling at full length. She was not much hurt, but one of her silver shoes came off, and before she could reach it, the witch snatched it and put it on her own skinny foot. The witch was greatly pleased, for as long as she had one of the shoes, she owned half the power of their charm. Dorothy, seeing she had lost her pretty shoe, grew angry. "Give me back my shoe," she cried. "I will not," said the witch. "It is now my shoe, not yours." "You are a wicked creature," cried Dorothy. "You have no right to take my shoe from me." "I shall keep it," said the witch, laughing. "And someday I shall get the other one from you too." This made Dorothy so angry that she picked up the bucket of water standing near and dashed it over the witch, wetting her from head to foot. Instantly, the wicked woman gave a loud cry of fear. As Dorothy looked on in wonder, the witch began to shrink and fall away. "See what you have done," she screamed. "In a minute I shall melt away." "I'm very sorry indeed," said Dorothy, truly frightened to see the witch melting like brown sugar before her very eyes. "Didn't you know water would be the end of me?" the witch wailed. "Of course not," said Dorothy. "How should I?" "Well, in a few minutes I shall be all melted, and you will have the castle to yourself. I have been wicked in my day, but I never thought a little girl like you would ever melt me and end my wicked deeds. Look out, here I go." With those words, the witch fell down into a brown, melted, shapeless mass and began to spread over the clean boards of the kitchen floor. Seeing she had really melted away, Dorothy picked up the silver shoe, cleaned it, dried it, and put it on her foot again. Then, free at last, she ran out to the courtyard to tell the lion that the wicked witch of the West had come to an end, and that they were no longer prisoners in a strange land. Tomorrow, we follow Dorothy and her friends as they rescue the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman and find their way home. Share this story with someone who needs rest and subscribe to Sleep Factory. You've done enough tonight. Rest now, dear friend. Sleep well.